Art, we are told it's about beauty, transcendence, genius, truth. But step aside the velvet curtain and you find something far less pure. Every brushstroke hides a transaction. Every sculpture was once a power move. Art has always been currency, traded for status, sanctity, and sometimes silence. From the marble halls of Florence to the boardrooms of billionaires, art has been used to launder reputation, money, and even ideologies. This isn't just the story of beauty. This is how beauty became leverage. Our story begins in Florence in the 15th century, not just the birthplace of the Renaissance, but also of a completely new empire, the financial one. Families like Medici, Strozzi, and Pazzi discovered that art could purchase immortality. They didn't build cathedrals out of pure faith alone. They built them out of accounting. Cosimo de' Medici didn't just commission art, he orchestrated a visual empire. When Fra Angelico painted angels in San Marco, or Botticelli filled canvases with mythic grace, the saints' faces often look suspiciously familiar. Medici cousins posing as holy witnesses, or sometimes even as Mary herself. This was branding long before billboards. Each chapel fresco was a press release from the house of Medici. The Renaissance wasn't born from the creativity alone. It was fueled by the banking system. As Richard Goldwait noted, Florentine wealth converted gold into glory. Artists like Leonardo and Michelangelo became contractors of divine propaganda. Michelangelo's David, carved for the Florentine Republic, was much less biblical than political. A civic warning that Florence stood against giants, especially Rome. Even the Last Supper was funded by a duke trying to sanctify his reputation after a coup. Back in the day, Italy was a mix of kingdoms. It wasn't a unified country. So each individual kingdom or family in power were fighting for the power and prestige of their name. Fast forward 2 centuries, powers got silkier and sin got more expensive. The Baroque and Rococo periods turned divine propaganda into visual pleasure. After the religious wars in Europe, kings replaced God as the ultimate client. Louis XIV, the Sun King, understood optics. His palace at Versailles was the most opulent performance. Marble mirrors and propaganda. Charles Le Brun crafted ceilings that turned the king into a celestial being. Versailles wasn't just a home, it was a message. I am the state. By the 18th century, that message changed tone. The Rococo style, all pastels, pinks, pearls, and powdered decadence, emerged as the visual language of aristocratic escapism. François Boucher, Jean-Honoré Fragonard, and Elisabeth Viguier-Lebrun painted worlds where nymphs flirted in clouds and nobles bathed in gold light. It was Versailles without guilt. The gods were having fun, and so were the patrons. But art that ignores the real world eventually faces it. Outside the salons, France starved. When the revolution came, it guillotined not only the nobility but also their aesthetic. Rococo fell with Versailles. In its place rose neoclassicism. Marble bodies, stoic heroes, republican virtue. Jacques-Louis David painted the death of Marat as a secular martyrdom. Beauty turned into political weaponry. Art had gone from indulgence to ideology. As revolutions reshaped Europe, art followed the money once again. By the 19th century, the church and monarchy no longer ruled the taste. The bourgeoisie. Art became democratized, but it also became commodified. The Salon, the official French art exhibition, was both stage and battlefield. Winning a medal there meant fortune. Being rejected meant obscurity. When the Salon dismissed painters like Manet, Monet, and Degas, they staged their own. The Salon des Refusés of 1863, the birth of modern art's rebellion. Impressionism wasn't scandalous because of nudity, but because it threatened the hierarchy of value. Claude Monet's Impression Sunrise looked unfinished, unrefined, yet it captured light like no one before. Art critics mocked it, collectors soon worshipped it. Suddenly, art's worth was no longer set by institution. It floated like the market itself. Dealers like Paul de Roncourt revolutionized the business. He bought and stored hundreds of Impressionist works, betting on their future value. The first real documented speculation bubble in art history. By the 1890s, a painting wasn't just a window into beauty. It was also a stock option. Then came the 20th century, 2 world wars and one shattered illusion. Artists turned from patrons to prophets, exposing the chaos beneath civilization's glitz and glamour. Modernism fractured tradition. Cubism, Dada, Surrealism, each movement tore down the old idea of beauty. But even rebellion has sponsors. During the Cold War, art became a weapon of ideology. The CIA, through front groups like the Congress for Cultural Freedom, covertly funded exhibitions of abstract expressionists like Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, and Willem de Kooning across Europe. Their paintings, vast, chaotic, personal, were the perfect metaphor for freedom. In contrast, Soviet realism portrayed your everyday workers and smiling farmers. To the west, Pollock's splatters screamed liberty. To the east, they looked like nonsense. Either way, they were powerful. Pollock himself never knew. While his works toured European capitals under covert sponsorship, he baffled alcoholism in Long Island. When he died in a drunk-related car crash in 1956, he didn't know that he had been used as a cultural ammunition. But by the 1960s, the masks were off. Andy Warhol didn't just blend art and commerce. He erased the border. His studio, The Factory, was a production line for celebrities. Warhol painted what people bought and sold what people worshipped. Good business, he said, as the best art. Pop art was democracy with a credit card, where Michelangelo glorified saints, Warhol glorified brands. Campbell's soup, Coca-Cola, Brillo boxes, icons of consumer religion. It wasn't rebellion. It was reflection. But pop art also exposed the deeper, darker truth. In capitalist world, attention is the new altar. Collectors, advertisers, and celebrities all fed the same ecosystem of fame. By the late 20th century, galleries had become the new temples of power. Their walls lined not with saints, but with price tags. If art was once used to immortalize power, now it's used to conceal it. The modern art market is one of the least regulated financial systems in the world, according to the Washington Post. Paintings worth millions can change hands privately. No taxes, no transparency, no trail. Here is how the laundering works. A buyer acquires a painting to say for 100,000. Then they claim it's worth 5 million. Move it into a tax-free zone like the Geneva Freeport and sell it through a shell company. Money cleaned, paintings untouched. In these facilities, Picassos sit in a climate-controlled darkness, unseen, unappreciated, but endlessly tradable. The Panama Papers exposed dozens of shell companies owning art to hide wealth and sanctions. Even auction houses play along their private sales cloaked in anonymity. Unlike real estate, art has no regulations, no registry, no fixed value. It's the perfect luxury laundering machine. Donald Trump once called art a terrible investment, yet his NFTs sold faster than the most mid-tier painters. Proof that in the art world, irony is the most expensive medium. It's not just the patrons who sinned. The artists themselves lived in chaos too. Caravaggio was both a genius and criminal. He killed a man over a tennis score, fled Rome, and painted masterpieces in exile. Yet his patrons forgave him because his chiaroscuro turned sinners into saints. Schiele was jailed in 1912 for decency. His erotic sketches were deemed corrupting to minors. When police raided his studio, they burned one of his drawings in court as evidence. A century later, this same erotism sells for millions. And Picasso, the 20th century titan, manipulated women, cheating on them, and rejected his own child. His muses became fractured portraits, his lovers immortalized and discarded. He told one of them, "There are only two kinds of women, goddesses and doormats." Muse and victim were often the same person. Even the moral contradictions became a part of the myth. We forget monsters as long as they paint beautifully. In art, talent cleanses all sins, or at least prices them higher. Today, art isn't just aesthetic, it's strategic. Russian oligarchs, Chinese billionaires, Middle Eastern royals, or American politicians all collect art as soft power. Museums, too, play politics. The Louvre, Abu Dhabi, the Guggenheim, Bilbao, the Qatar Museum, all part of cultural diplomacy. It's an empire-building exhibition. Saudi Arabia's purchase of Salvator Mundi, supposedly by Leonardo da Vinci, for $450 million in 2017, which was the most expensive art sale in history at that time. Experts still argue whether it's truly Leonardo's hand or not, but in geopolitics, authenticity is secondary to symbolism. Owning the most expensive artwork ever sold is the real signature. Our new Medicis wear logos. Luxury brands sponsor exhibitions, found museums, and blur the line between art and advertising. Louis Vuitton Foundation in Paris, Prada's art spaces in Milan, Dior's artistic collaborations, all fuse prestige with marketing. Naomi Klein called it the colonization of culture by capital. The same way the Medicis used frescoes to glorify their name, today's corporations use biennales to glorify their brand. Art fairs like Frieze, Art Basel, and TIFF are modern pilgrimages. Temples where collectors worship at the altar of capital. NFTs took it digital, promising democratization and delivering speculation. People's Everydays, the first 5,000 days, sold for $69 million in 2021. A collage of pixels turned into currency. It wasn't art history, it was market history. Even beauty has been corporatized. Magazines like Vogue or Harper's Bazaar have dictated ideals for over a century, selling aspiration as an art form. The modern museum and luxury boutiques now share the same design language: clean lines, white walls, and exclusivity disguised as minimalism. From cathedrals to freeports, from saints to CEOs, art has always been a mirror of power. It shaped gods, kings, revolutions, and brands. We say art is priceless, but that's just another way to hide its price. The irony, the more we buy beauty, the less we seem to feel it. Maybe true beauty was never meant to be owned, only witness.